17.
Nervous?
No.
I want the illusion. It's what I'm paying for.
Jon Hewitt, director of X, is with us here at Popcorn Taxi. He's a man on a mission to give Australia an option, and the option is gritty, dark films that explore the seamier side of Australia. Is this a mission, or are you just a dark, twisted individual?
They're the sorts of films that I like to watch, and the sorts of stories that I like to tell as a filmmaker, particularly in, say, relation to X. It grew out of my co-writer and my wife, Belinda McClory. We live in King's Cross, pretty much ground zero, next door to McDonald's, in between Porkies and Showgirls, across from strippers. Like, we're 5 floors up, but we're right there. We've been there since 2000. And it's pretty much influenced everything that we've done. You can't live there and see the sorts of things that you see when you live there 24 hours a day without it sort of affecting you. Lots of really interesting stories going on. It's a real melting pot. When the place has got this sort of inbuilt sort of mythological weight to it anyhow. King's Cross is a very vivid and very brutal place, it can be. And yeah, it just informed the story. But the Cross is also still a relatively free and easy place. You know, the City of Sydney are very supportive of low-budget Australian films. Our location manager, Chris Wheeler, he'd just come off Underbelly, the Golden Mile, so he was able to go back to these old club owners and go, listen, now's the time for a bit of altruism. I've got this low-budget Aussie film, and because they don't give a shit about movies, they don't give a shit about fame, they only care about money. Like we've got a scene where Hannah runs through the Love Machine. Yep. It's an action beat in the film, but we literally had 10 minutes to shoot it. The guy said, it's 8 o'clock, fuck off by 10 past 8, because you're scaring our customers away. So we had enough time to just quickly do 2 takes, running after her and also leading her through the club. But yeah, as a filmgoer, I love sex and violence and guns going off and car chases and that sort of stuff. I've always been very much a film goer who's responded to just the visceral experience of sitting in a cinema and watching action and having an impact on you without actually necessarily needing to think about it all the time. And as a filmmaker, I guess what I'm talking about is sort of genre films, films that are know what sorts of stories they want to tell and what sort of audience they want to reach and make their stories directly for that audience. So that's sort of where I come from as somebody who tries to think of being a filmmaker and hopefully doing something different or being original, if that's at all possible. My favourite filmmakers are David Fincher and Lars von Trier, Gaspar Noé, and for me they embody that. They work within genre, but they somehow transcend it or elevate it in extraordinary ways. I mean, I'm just sort of following along behind, trying to do my own thing. I'm not comparing myself to them. But you look at Lars von Trier and nobody would accuse him of being a genre filmmaker, but Antichrist is a horror film, and the Melancholia is like Armageddon. That's the sort of space I want to inhabit as a filmmaker. And I think that certainly in Australia there's the opportunity to do that.
When it comes to X, it's a sexy film on one level. On the other one, it's a brutally exploitative film on one level.
Yep.
It's interesting. Do you actually draw a line between exposing the reality of the brutality of, say, the sex scenes, or being paid to perform sex in front of other people, perform with other people, and then showing it as titillation? Do you look at it and go, well, we're showing boobs here, it's awesome? Or do you go, hang on, we've got to show boobs in a certain way so that we know that there's a cruelty to that kind of side of prostitution?
Look, I like stories and films that walk the razor edge of ideology, and I think anything that sets out to criticise something needs to understand why people might be attracted to it. That's, I guess, the philosophical arguments. And that's just like, I'd like to think that I think that way and I make stories that way. But no, I love exploitation films. I love pornography. you know. It's not a pejorative term for me, it's like a description of a genre. Cinema's about seeing, and I don't know, like there's a lot of cinema around these days that doesn't even try to go there in the way that cinema used to in, say, the 60s and the 70s. My own experience of trying to make a brutally honest portrayal of what it is to fuck for money, what it is to be naked in front of a room full of people and have sex, what it is to like sell your body and all that sort of stuff. But it also understands the milieu and has great respect for all its characters, no matter how nasty they might be, and I don't know, resonates with the legitimacy of what's going on. Like Belinda and I certainly didn't want to set out to write a critique of prostitution, because a lot of our friends are prostitutes and it's a very legitimate way to earn a living. You know, there's a flip side to anything, and the flip side to perhaps, you know, working the streets is that you're going to come up against some not very nice people, and you're going to have to do shit that ain't very nice.
I'm a young filmmaker, and I like genre movies, and I like to get things going. And I've got my mates with my DV camera, and we can shoot. And we've got actors we know. Why the hell would I make films in Australia? What sickness do you have to become a filmmaker in Australia?
Look, I think it's easier to make films in Australia than in other countries.
What makes you say that?
You know, Hollywood's a different sort of industry. Just because you want to make genre films doesn't mean they'll make your films.
Right.
And whether it's independent production companies or not. Also, try getting out on the streets of LA and shooting like we did in The Cross without 25 people coming up to you wanting money and wanting stuff. You know, Australia's still a great place to make films, and you can still have a lot of freedom to do that sort of guerrilla underground stuff. And my advice is don't be discouraged. You know, yes. Awesome! You've got to go for it. You've got to make your movie. We haven't even scratched the surface of the stories that we can tell, the landscapes we can shoot. You know, that are just there for free, like King's Cross or Kakadu or whatever. You know, like don't expect to have a career.
Well, this is the thing. Now, I think actually
I've always had a day job. You know?
All right, now let's go there, because most people look at filmmakers in Australia and they go, oh wow, he's a filmmaker, he's a director, he's living the high life, all that sort of stuff. The reality that is, you're kind of eking out a bit of cash from people giving you money to do scripts. When you're shooting, you're literally losing money. How do you stay alive, literally, full stop?
Well, Belinda and I are a team.
Yep.
And so she's a successful working actor, works a lot in the theatre, earns money that way. I've always had a day job. Like graphic design. I used to manage I used to be one of the managers at the Academy Twin Cinema, the Verona. I've always worked in that industry. I have been lucky enough in the last few years to make 2 films where I actually got paid to make them. Like say when I directed Acolytes, it was my 4th feature film, but it was the very first time I'd actually ever been paid anything as a director. So I was 48 years old with three films under my belt before I lived the dream, which was getting paid to make a film. It's the most incredibly privileged position to be in. Yeah, but if you don't expect to be given a career, then you won't be disappointed. It's always sensible to have a day job, I think, working in any sort of creative industry.